Picture this. The year is 2023. The CEO of the world's most famous remote work company, the company that literally kept civilization running during a global pandemic, sends a memo to his employees. And the memo says, "Come back to the office." The man who sold the world on working from home, telling his own people that dream is over. That right there is either the greatest hypocrisy in Silicon Valley history or a confession. And honestly, it might be both. This is the story of how one man built a $160 billion empire on a single promise. How a global catastrophe turned that promise into gold. And how, when the catastrophe ended, the empire started eating itself alive. Eric Yuan didn't start Zoom out of passion. He started it out of humiliation. In 2011, he walked into Cisco's headquarters, where he'd spent 14 years building WebEx, and pitched them a new vision for video conferencing. They said no, so he left, and he didn't leave alone. He took 40 engineers with him, 40 people who believed that WebEx was already dead. They just hadn't buried it yet. Within 2 years, Zoom was live. Within 5, it was profitable. That almost never happens in Silicon Valley. By 2019, Zoom went public at a $9 billion valuation. Investors were impressed, but not exactly losing their minds. It was a solid, boring B2B software company, a utility. Nobody thought it was going to become a cultural institution. Then March 2020 arrived, and everything changed. In January, Zoom had 10 million daily users. By April, just 4 months later, it had 300 million. Not growth, not a surge, a detonation. The stock didn't just go up, it went insane, from $70 a share to $559. A company that was worth $9 billion at IPO was now worth $160 billion. Eric Yuan, the guy Cisco told to go away, was now one of the richest people on earth. But here's the thing about being handed $160 billion by the universe. The universe always wants something in return, and in Zoom's case, the bill arrived fast. First came the security researchers, then came the journalists, then came the US government. It turned out that Zoom calls, your therapy sessions, your board meetings, your kids' school lessons were being routed through servers in China. Not sometimes, routinely. The encryption keys for US and Canadian users were being generated and stored in China. Let that sit for a moment. The FTC came knocking and Zoom settled, paid the fine, promised to fix things. They called it a non-event. Their users called it something else. And Congress started asking questions that video conference companies really don't want to answer. So what does a company drunk on pandemic money do when it starts to feel the heat? It tries to buy its way out. In 2021, Zoom announced it was acquiring Five9, a cloud contact center company, for $14.7 billion. It was meant to signal, we are more than video calls. We are infrastructure. The deal collapsed. The shareholders of Five9 voted against it. The national security scrutiny, directly connected to those China routing questions, had made the deal radioactive. $14.7 billion gone, not spent, just evaporated. The pandemic ended. People went back to their offices, their schools, their lives. And when they did, they didn't stop using Zoom, but they stopped needing Zoom. And on Wall Street, there is no crueler sentence than that. From its peak of $559 a share, Zoom's stock fell to $60, then $55, then $68, bouncing around the drain. a 90% collapse in value, $140 billion in market cap. Simply delete it. The number is so large it stops feeling real. So let's make it real. That's more than the GDP of Hungary. Erased in 2 years, and in the middle of this free fall, the Hail Mary. Zoom quietly dropped the word video from its official company name. They were no longer Zoom Video Communications, just Zoom. A rebrand, an AI pivot, a desperate whisper. Please don't think of us as the pandemic app. They launched AI features, Zoom AI Companion, summaries, transcripts, smart recaps, all the things every other company was also launching at the same time, with more resources, more data, and, crucially, without the stench of a failed empire. Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Cisco WebEx, the ghost of Yuan's past, all circling, and then the ultimate closing act. The man who built the world's remote work platform, who made billions telling us the office was obsolete, who disrupted the commute, the cubicle, the conference room. He looked his engineers in the eyes, and he said, "Come back in." There's a word for what happened to Zoom. It's not failure. Failure implies you ran out of talent or luck or ideas. What happened to Zoom is something more specific and more tragic. They were handed a miracle, and they mistook it for a business model. The stock is down 90%. The name has changed. The office mandate is real, and somewhere in a gleaming Silicon Valley headquarters, the engineers who followed Eric Yuan out of Cisco are sitting at their desks, wondering if they made the right call twice.